A woman on the verge of dying of thirst made a surprising choice. She poured what little water she had left right over her head. Then, barely a second later, she was sticking out her tongue, desperately licking rainwater off the top of the crate before finally pulling out a bottle to collect what she could. Almost immediately, she started dry heaving. The rainwater was laced with iron oxide, completely undrinkable. Just when she was on the edge of giving up, a few drops of water landed on her face. It was raining outside, really raining. Annie scrambled to gather every plastic container she could find, stacking them on top of the cargo crate to catch every precious drop. As she pried open a metal tin, the pull tab on the lid gave her an idea. A way out? She looped a rope around the top of the crate, grabbed both ends with her hands, and pulled with everything she had, throwing her full body weight into it. At last, the top of the crate split open. Annie burst into tears. It was her child. Her child was the reason she refused to quit. But the moment she climbed out of the container, her heart sank. There was nothing around her but endless open ocean. When night came, the temperature plummeted, and the baby fell into a fit of non-stop coughing. Annie stuffed her clothes into a cup, soaked them in liquor, and rigged up a makeshift heater. She set it beside the child to keep him warm, and as she watched her son sleep, she made herself a vow. She would survive this, no matter what it took. Time pressed on, and the water level inside the container crept up to a breaking point. Annie had no choice but to move on top of it. While she worked to piece together a rough raft from plastic containers, the sealed opening on one of them suddenly gave way under the force of the seawater. Annie sensed the danger and tried to dive down to block the breach, but the container was sinking too fast. In an instant, the raft carrying her baby was swept away by the current. And if that wasn't bad enough, Annie's foot had gotten tangled in a rope. She snatched up a small knife, plunged into the water, and fought desperately to cut herself free. But her air ran out fast, and she had no choice but to surface and breathe. She stared at the container as it slipped beneath the waves, then dove back down without a second thought. In the last possible moment before she blacked out, Annie finally cut through the rope. She clawed her way back to the surface, but her child was gone. As she screamed out in despair, a massive whale quietly drifted beneath the baby. A spray of water from its blowhole jolted the infant awake. Annie followed the sound of crying until she found her child, and she looked toward the whale with a silent, grateful heart. And so Annie drifted through the entire night, holding her baby close on that little raft. With the very last of her strength, she tossed scraps of fish into the water, hoping to draw in hungry seagulls. Before long, a fishing boat spotted the birds, circling in the sky, and moved in to take a look. And there it was, the raft. The crew worked together to haul it up and stood in disbelief at the sight of a tiny baby sleeping peacefully. Following the rope, they then found Annie, barely alive. When Annie finally opened her eyes, she could hardly believe it. She and her child had actually made it. That is the power of a mother's love, a love that holds nothing back and gives everything for the sake of her child. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Have you ever stopped to notice the quiet, selfless things your own mother does for you every single day?